All right, everybody. Welcome to another freestyle game dev live stream. My name is Kevin. We work this like office hours. Come and go as you please. Ask questions in an AMA Q&A style fashion. And what we are talking about is we are talking about Unreal Engine, blueprints, game development. And if anybody is working through our Python crash course for creatives, also free for those kinds of questions as well. We do this twice a week. We do these Sunday nights and Wednesday mornings. Generally speaking, they're at 10:15 Sunday nights and 8 a.m. Wednesday mornings. That's in Pacific Standard Time. Check out Twitter or the schedule on YouTube to make sure that nothing has been moved around, just for future updates. Currently, I work as a senior principal tech artist at Riot Games in R&D. And what that means is I have an insane amount to learn still. In the absence of any questions are priority throughout the live stream. So if anybody has a question, no matter what we're doing or what I'm working on, I'll drop what I'm doing and prioritize that. But if there are no questions, we're filling the time by, I am actually just live streaming me working towards my own working prototype for a game that I would like to make. And we are stumbling through it and we're learning a lot as we go, which is really cool because I get to learn a lot about other disciplines and take that back to the day job, which is cool. So with that, there weren't any questions specifically in the chats. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hop straight back into Unreal, where hopefully I can catch you up on a lot of the good updates that has happened. I feel like I've learned a ton and gotten through a bunch of milestones in the last 3-ish, 4-ish days, however long it's been since our last stream. So let's see if I can even remember everything we've done. But we'll start with, let me just start with showing you a few things. We can play. Here we go. Okay, so actually let's get rid of the enemy first. The usual debug breakpoint. Let's get rid of our enemy first, just so I can talk through this stuff without getting beat up. Okay, last time we were struggling a lot with our enhanced input system, and specifically we were struggling a lot with double taps, largely because double taps aren't built in, so we had to build them ourselves. And the hope was that we could use the double tap where when we attack and then afterwards we would evade after an attack. Attack, evade, attack, evade. Kind of wanted to build that fantasy, make it a little bit more, just make combat feel a little bit more fluid and dynamic. Now, so what has happened is I figured out what's going on with the double tap. It was a combination of things. There were basically there were two different places that the input modifiers were affecting the same keys. And then also, Antheus, how are you doing tonight? Good to see you. So basically figured out the double tap, and as a result of figuring that out, I also think I figured out that we don't want the double tap. It's classic, right? But let me show you how it works. So right now, if I double tap, she'll evade right. That's a double tap left. She'll evade left, evade forward, and evade back. So our evade's in there, which is cool. And then what happens is if we attack and then we evade afterwards, you get a brief moment of immunity. So that as you're attacking, you can do these evades. Now, these evades are stand-in animations, and I do not like them. So we're going to be changing those, and actually, I'm going to give you all a few options of things that we could work on tonight. We'll see what you all feel like doing. So we got the double tap, that's working. Another thing that was happening is in our combos, specifically if we go 1, 2, 3. And I know this isn't the most amazing combo, but it's a good stand-in. What was happening was, a lot of times it felt like we were missing the enemies. We would attack, and we wouldn't actually hit anything. And it turns out that what was happening was, on this sword swing, on the second one where we're swinging up from the floor, and on the third one where we're swinging over our head, what was happening was the sword hit detection was actually hitting the floor. So I had to create a new channel for the weapons so that they didn't hit the floors. It was basically stealing the hit from the enemies. So that was another fix that happened. And that has gone a long ways towards, if we spawn an enemy now. So that has gone a long ways towards making this feel a little bit better. So this guy's gonna come in. And remember, I couldn't get through an encounter last time without losing like 70 health. There we go, 170, pretty good. So already better, just because the hotkeys are more reliable, because the attack's more reliable. Now the other thing that I added is parry. Now right now it just looks like she's squatting, but the overall point is this is actually a parry, and there's a couple cool things about this that I discovered as I was working through it. So first off, you'll notice that if he hits me when I'm parrying, he gets knocked back. And it's going to need some tuning. That's fine. And whether it be a knockback or a temporary stun, whatever it is, it should hopefully help create a window of opportunity. And we should probably do it based on enemy size and type and bunch of good things. But overall, the cool thing is that's in there. Now, there's a bunch. The way I'm doing this, by the way, is I'm holding down the F key right now. So this also means that I also figured out how to do, within the same ability, the ability to go back and play the looping part of the montage, and then when we're finished, by releasing the F key, I can get up and whack this guy. And effectively, just take him out one hit at a time. Ah, messed up the timing of that. Oh, I did it again. Hitting me in the back. Anyways, so cool. It's actually pretty fun. We got both the parry, a bunch of learnings around parry, a bunch of learnings around enhanced input, and a bunch of learnings around also just our keyboard input. You began reaching out to publishers a bit earlier than I wanted to, but we have hit a growth wall. Oh, bummer. Yeah, once you start worrying about paychecks and people's livelihoods, things get interesting for sure. I've been there, so I definitely know that bridge. So what was the other thing that happened? Oh yes, so as a result, so the double taps are working, all that stuff is there, but I actually think that probably what we want is a much easier input. My guess is we probably just want it so that you can WASD and it's on space or another key. The problem is jump is on space. So we're going to have a little bit of some exploration around trying to figure out what the ultimate keyboard bindings are going to be. I'm not going to get lost with that right now. Lots of really cool learnings around that. But I ultimately think we're going to have to go with I want to go with space. I also don't like I believe it's the shift. The shift, yeah, the shift, it's the shift, what is that? The shift dash. I don't like the shift dash for a couple reasons. One is, part of it is, it feels a little bit like a Vulcan death grip or something, for all you Star Wars, or Star Trek fans out there. It's just not super intuitive for me. Maybe I'll get used to it over time. I'll have to see, but so we have the dash. I think if we get rid of dash and maybe shift is jump or space is evade, and we replace dash with evade, etc., I think that would be cool. I think the other thing is that I'm not a huge fan of is this dash feels super floaty and weak to me in general. So I'm not there's something about the little float at the end of it. Anyways, we'll work through that. So I think those are all of the bigger learnings that I had between last time and now. So with that, we are actually at a point where we have the option to do a few different things. So tonight we could fix, I can show you this problem. So we fixed our sword combo, so if we were running and we attacked, the character stops and finishes the combo, right? But the problem is we did not do that with the power attacks. And so what happens is, let me kill this guy real quick. So what happens is if I'm running forward and I power power combo, you'll see how my cooldown is running. It's because the running interrupts the power combo. So you go to hit the power combo, but it doesn't actually happen. So we need to do the exact same stuff that we did with the sword combo for the power combo. That's one thing we could do tonight. Second thing we could do tonight is we could, a while back in a prototype I was doing for a company, I set it up so that the camera, as it would follow you around, when it went behind objects, it would make the objects kind of disappear by putting like cutouts and everything like that. So you didn't have this, like if we back up to the wall here, the camera like comes in on our head. Well, if you make it so this wall doesn't block the camera, then the camera goes through the wall. You need to be able to make the wall transparent so you can see through it, so you can still see your character still play. So we could do a materials thing, working with environmental transparency. And then the other one we could do is we could do some Unreal Editor animation, whereby what we can do is we can use control rig, existing animations, rebuild the dash animations to use them as our evade animations and plug those in. Those are all of the things that we could possibly do. And since it's just Antius and I tonight, we're going to decide for ourselves what we think is fun. Should we do some animation? We'll do some materials. I think all of it's good work to get done. Guess we can try some animation. Let's see if we can't. Well, let's see how fast the animation goes. If we can get through even one or two of them, I can show you a couple different ways to do that. Then maybe we'll have time to do one of the other ones as well. I guess so. Let's start there. Okay. So to use Unreal as an animation editor, I have a level. Weston. By the way, Antius Weston says, hey. Weston, do you have a preference? Did you hear the 3 options we have to work on tonight? Did you have anything that did you have a vote, or also, did you have a question? Because questions take priorities. There's like it's a pretty decent delay between chat and audio and all that stuff, so. Okay, so I'm going to continue down the animation route until Weston chimes in. Alright, so in order to do animation in editor, I have created, yes, so there's 3 options of things we can work on tonight. I kind of went through everything we've learned since last time, a bunch of the stuff that I fixed. So here's your 3 options if you don't have any questions and no questions pop up. 1, we could fix the power attack so that it works just like the sword combo, whereby if you're running and you power attack, it's not going to, right now, your power attack gets consumed, but you don't actually attack and you keep on running and your cooldown comes up and you can't power attack again. So that's just one thing we could fix. Second thing we could do is we can do some in-editor animations, where what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to convert the dash animations, make some edits to them using control rig and baking and everything like that, and dump those out to use as better animations for our evade. So that's option 2. And then option 3 is the camera transparency thing for the environment, whereby when the camera goes through a wall, the wall will actually turn transparent so you can still see your character and you can still work around it. So we could take out the camera collision thing and just let the camera be a little bit more consistent throughout your game. So did you have a vote? Okay. I think that's the animation one. Okay, because I changed the order between the first time and the second time. Okay, so here we go with the animation. So the way this works is we've got a level. It's super simple. It's got a couple lights in it. We've got a skeletal mesh in it. Nothing crazy. And then we have levels, level sequences. And we use the level sequences to do our editing, just using the sequence editor. So, for example, if we take a look at back, okay, now this one has already been done, but don't worry, I'm gonna go back and do this from scratch. So back is just, this animation is an animation that we took the dash animation and we baked it out onto control rig. And with that, we have the ability to edit our character and animation and change it over time as we're doing now. Left, I believe, is the same thing. Left we have not done yet, and right we have not done yet. Oh no, wait, right we started on. So right has been baked out. Okay, so let's work on left. Okay, so one other thing that's worth a blueprint interface. Yeah, I saw your question as far as blueprint interface tutorials. Yeah, we could totally do one of those. I got to get through all the foundation stuff first, and I think once we get through that, and there's a little bit more frameworks on it, we could do it, or I could do that as a kind of a separate intermediate video along the way. But yes, we can totally do that. Let's see. Okay, so another thing that's worth mentioning though is there's a little bit of a weird thing with this. All right, and this is a pipeline production thing. Okay, if we are actually creating assets in Unreal Engine, the whole having a Blender or a Maya file that spits out an FBX file that gets imported, all that's gone. So our source assets don't live in a separate tree. They're kind of in Unreal. So I was actually thinking, bummer, undock that. I was actually thinking about where I might store the original source, because what's going to happen is we're going to finish doing this animation, and then we're going to bake it out to an actual animation sequence in Unreal. And then if we need to edit it, we need to get back to the original. So you kind of need to have a whole plan and naming convention around these source assets that you're creating in Engine. I do not like where I have this right now, but it's a start. So I've created a folder called source assets. I think it's probably better if this was a plugin, because if we made it a game feature plugin, you could just unload it. You don't have to worry about packaging it, shipping it, or anything like that. And the game feature plugin could be source assets or dev assets or whatever you want. Anyway, because all you're doing is working with it. And so within our source assets, we have our character, mannequin, anim. And inside of our anim, we have our evade left. All right. So we're working on this sequence. Now to get started, what we need to do is we need to add a couple tracks. So let's add the Manny to this. Right now it's basically just got nothing in it. So this is how the anim sequencer works. We add that, and then what I want to do is I want to put an animation in here, and I'm gonna do dash left. Okay, make sure it's lined up. And now, wait, did we mean to do right? Hold on a second. This is right. Okay, right is right. Okay, so let's go back to left. So here's left. Okay, so our anim sequence is now playing the dash left anim. That doesn't help us because we can't actually animate this yet. So we need to get this onto the control rig. So what we can do is we can right click on our skeletal mesh and we can bake this to the control rig. This is the mannequin body. Options for baking, I'm not going to even mess with it. I'm just going to do that. And then I can actually go ahead and just delete the animation. I don't even need it anymore. And this has now been converted to keyframes. So we now have keyframes that we can work with and edit our animation, which is pretty cool. Now, what I want to do, what I am particularly not excited about this is what I want to do is I want this all to be on the ground and flat, like almost like a shoulder charge dash, but it's an evade now. So I'm going to take out all of the air elements of this real quick, just using the in editor tools. So to do that, we're going to do this two ways. The first way we're going to do this is we're going to do this with, hold on. Okay, let's bring up our graph editor. Okay. And for the foot, I'm gonna look at their Z curves here because remember in Unreal Engine, Z is up. We have Z, Z, and Z. These are all of our Z curves. Okay. Okay. And then we are going to use a tool. We're going to use the tween tool. And we'll do it between poses. And I'm going to try to find a way to, you know what, let's just do this here. We'll just dock this. Okay, and the thing that we're going to tween here is, let's just start with this part. And as we scrub, I'm just going to tween all of this down. Okay. Pretty okay. So already our character is no longer going up in the air. Cool. So this is going to look way more like a dash. All right. Now there's a couple bits that we're going to change in here as well. And I'll get to those in a second just to make this look better. But for now, let's just roll with this. That's the foot. And then this is just this guy. So let's do a few things. So it's going to drop down, and then we are going to clean this. Let's try pose. There we go. It's pretty linear, but that's okay. We can make it a little bit more of a fall off. Bring this down. I could just delete all these keys and do this with a control curve, but that's okay. We'll just do this. Or maybe we'll do that. Let's just delete all these keys. Get this down to just a couple keys. And then change this to, not that one, this one. Okay, let's scrub that. Okay, looks pretty good. The only thing I don't like is, I think he's too high. Bring this down. A little bit of animation editing here. Okay, so now there's this back and forth thing that's happening here. We're gonna take this out too. So to take this out, what we want is, we don't want him to go so far. So let's see if we can just tween out. Let's see here, hold on. Kind of goes left and then shoots back right. So I know we want to take this out. I don't think we want this at all. Let's go. Oh, undo. We don't want this one. This one's our anchor. Nope. Nope, don't want that one either. Okay, so now what's gonna happen is this is gonna come in a little more. We don't have that harsh thing. Now this whole thing kind of goes a little bit too far for me. So we could just take this whole piece and dial it down. So it's a little bit more subtle. Okay. All right, so now we got to do the same thing with this left foot on the X, so it's not overshooting. We're just going to dial this back once again using the tween tool. That should just feel better. This doesn't need to be perfect. You'll get the general idea. Let's take this and go more like this. Dense keys. This reminds me of working on Monster House. Motion capture stuff. Okay, so this one comes up. I think we could go faster. Let's just delete these keys in the middle and do this. Convert this to an auto tangent. And let's move this up. I think that'll be good enough. Okay, so cool. We got a little bit of a hippity hoppity here. There's something going on in this channel. So we can flatten this out. Once again, just quickly using our tween tools. Undo that. I don't want to get too, I can get very lost in animation, so I don't want to get too lost in animation. So let's just call that good enough. The left foot. I do want to fix this left knee. It just looks dumb. It looks broken. So he comes over. It's actually not the left knee that's the problem. It's the left foot rotation. Yaw, pitch, roll, hit, yaw. And I want this thing to go past, I believe. Nope. Here we go. Ooh. Smooth this out. Same thing. Cool. Good enough. Good enough. Close enough for government work. Is this the same as IKR? I guess I don't really understand what you mean by IKR. So let's fix the right foot just quickly, because it right here it goes way back. We're just going to do a quick fix on this. This is our location X. It doesn't need to go this far back. We can once again probably just get away with a quick tween. Bring this back. Okay, cool. So now all we gotta do is check out this knee control, which is funky. And we'll just pull this back in probably. Nope, that is not what we want to do. We're actually gonna go the other way. Okay, and then over here, we actually do need to be going back to where we were faster. Okay. All right, looks a little bit off, but it's all right. We'll be all right. Okay, cool. So let's call that our dash left. All right. So we finished that. And if we look at our sequencer, we basically have this baked out, and this is now here. And now I'm gonna save this real quick so that we have dash left. Now, if we look at, let's take a look at, actually, let's do this. Let's finish dash left. So let's take this and we're going to bake an anim sequence out of it. So this is our final step. We're going to be baking an anim sequence out of it. Let me figure out where we're going to put this before we do the bake, because it's going to ask me. So under characters, heroes, mannequin, animations. Interesting, there's a generated folder from Kevin. Is that me? Oh no, that's something the engine did. Katana link layers, poses, locomotion. Pistol rifle, unarmed. Let's see where they're currently, the dash is. Dash. Board is currently in actions. Okay. We can work with that. So let's right click on our mannequin, bake animation sequence. We're going to pick our folder. Here's animations, actions, and we are going to call this, oh man, I'm going to escape out because I can't remember what this thing is called. Let's browse to this. This is, okay, now we got it. Bake this out. Bake the animation sequence. Animations. Actions. Oh, no. Cancel. I didn't name it properly. Right click. Bake the animation sequence. Animations, actions. And the name of this is going to be animation mannequin evade left. Sure, let's go with that. So it's the same name as the source S it came from. It's just AS instead. Okay, so let's go with OK. And options, let's just click export. now, theoretically, maybe that made something for us. Let's see if that worked. Here we go, AS evade left. This is cool. So now we have this new animation that we just made. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. We did that using just general animation techniques, right? Have a good night, Weston. So basically that was just, normal animation. This time we're going to use, actually I gotta make sure that our camera's not gonna die. Hold on. Okay. Saved by the red blinking light. That's cool. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to use a layered animation approach, which is a little bit different. And it's probably not the best way to do it, but it would be cool to show you how layered animation works in here. So basically right now we have all of our animation. So we're going to do this on the right side. So we've done our left side, the left side's ready to go. Now we're going to do the right side. So on the right side, we have our animation, and what we want to do is we want to take out this up. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and I am going to add a section. I'm going to make it additive. And what that does is that creates this offset that has no keys on it. So now what I can do is I can pick, if I can select them, each of my controls. I can go to the first frame, set a keyframe. Let's say right about here, I have another keyframe. This feels like the peak. I'm going to take all of this and just move it down. Okay. And then I'm going to take this foot, so on, move it down as well. Okay. And then we are going to finish. When we finish, we need to make sure that our last frame is above the ground. So somehow we went. So now we're going through the ground. We need to take this right foot. Let's just do it one piece at a time. Boom. Just say this is where this lands. Move this up so it's on the ground. It looks like I've got snapping turned on. We were expecting this to be fun. So basically what we're doing here is we're actually counter-animating. And we need to get this guy way up in space. So in here, we need to be up here. We can probably look at our curve to see exactly what's going on to help us with this, but for now, let's go. Just by eye, coming down a little bit fast. Okay, cool. We need to fix our right foot. Still going through the floor here. So this is effectively counter-animating. And there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens with that foot, but we're going to ignore it. Okay, and let's fix our left foot. Our left foot comes off the ground. And we're going to put it down on the ground. Bring it up a little bit. Up a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm using an additive animation to basically All right, so in some ways faster, but in my opinion, it doesn't look as smooth, but it is a way to do it. So we're going to call that cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bake this out to another animation sequence. We're going to go into our animations, actions, and it's going to be animation sequence, mannequin evade right. Cool, export that, and we're good to go. So let's save this, and then let's go back to our regular level. Playground. And what we're going to do is we're going to update our evade montages to use our new animations. Evade. So we should also make sure we're connected to our perforce, which it looks like we are. Okay, great. So those get added. So we want our evade left. If we dock this, you all can see it. This is the kind of like spin around move that it was doing, which I think could be cool, especially if we made it so as you spin, you're also swiping, so you get an extra attack, but a little bit beside the point. So AS, and this is evade left. So there's left, cool. And then let's save that and go back and do evade right. We'll swap out this animation to be evade right. And now they're going the other way. I imagine we're going to have to make some changes to our driven curves, but actually it looks worse. It looks worse. It's playing our animation, which is cool. I think part of the problem is our playback speed. What is our playback speed set to? Okay. Play rate's 1. Let's make this faster. Let's do 1.5. Let's see. We may just be better off with just a pose. Let's get the whole thing in here and go 1.5. Okay, let's try that again. And see. Okay, not bad, but we don't go far enough. I think what we want is it looks really bad, but it's working. It looks really bad, but it's working. I think what we want is this just to be a pose, and maybe we do is we just hold that pose the whole time. Okay, but the first one's done in the sense that we went and we did, we animated our own animation sequence, we doctored the dash, took that, put it in, and that all works. I don't think that is the right animation for that particular ability, but that's beside the point. We can figure that out at a different time. Yes, sassy strafe. The worst strafe ever animated. Strafe. Okay, cool. So this looks pretty good. All right, so let's knock out the next thing actually. I do think that this is probably gonna be better as a pose. If we get time at the end, we'll come back and redo that as a pose. But now our animation sequences are all in there. We can go back, we can edit them, make changes, do anything we want to. Try out different things. It's very easy to do. Okay, so let's take a look at our sword combo. And specifically what I'm looking at here is in here, when we started, we bound our event to input movement, and that was our custom event. If the pawn moves outside the dash window, stop the animation. This is basically it. This is the same thing that we need. So You know what? We've done this already. We've already done this. I can do this offline and you see that. You know what? Let's see if we can really stumble through some material fun instead. Okay, let's do that instead. All right, here we go. First things first. Right now, in order to better exemplify this issue, I need to change a couple things about the way this level is set up. So what we're going to do is if I press play and I come back to this wall, you'll see that the camera is coming back into the character's head. Okay, if I pick this wall and I change the collision on it, oh, right now we're terrain not hit. Let's go custom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it so it doesn't block the camera anymore either. Okay, and so now when I play, when I come back to this back wall, you can see I'm behind the wall, which is great because it doesn't mess up my character's camera, but it's bad because unless I'm in, actually, there we go. Unless I'm in wireframe, I can't see it. Okay, so let's go and make that same change to this sidewall too. Change this to custom, and we're going to ignore the camera. Let's just do all 4 walls just in case. Ignore the camera, and here we go. Now what we would want to do is we would want to set up a collision preset. Reason being, we would want to apply this to all of our walls. So ignore the camera. Okay, now this is going to be fun. I have not done this in a long time, so let's see what we can figure out. That is the worst strafe ever. What is this? The backward tumble is good, the forward tumble is good, but man, that side strafe is bad. Okay, so here we go. Look, we're inside the wall. We can't see our character. All right, so let's take a look at this material and let's see if we can't figure out a couple things with it. We have our wall selected. So this is our common surface quad grid mat. And if we look at this and open it up, oh goodness, there's kind of a bunch going on. But what we want to do is this material is masked. So the opacity mask. Oh look, we already have some work done in here. Oh, look at this. Oh, cool. Okay, so let me see if I can explain how this is working. It's interesting. It's interesting that we don't see this though. That's kind of wild. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to clean this up so I can explain to you what's happening. I guess I did do this at one point then. So the way this works is it uses a sphere mask. And the sphere mask is effectively makes a cutout that looks like a giant sphere in the wall. And then using dithering and other things, you can make it look good. If you did full transparency, you could do that as well. But this one currently is set up to use dither, and it's getting multiplied together. It does a 1 minus x, and it inverts it, and that's the opacity mask. Now, the cutout location is where it's happening. If we change this to a Dumaflaci, a square, hopefully we can see it. I am going to disconnect this multiply, and you can see if I have a multiply of 1, you'll notice that I have this is cut out with the dithering and all that stuff. If I change our radius to be 50, I think it'll be easier to see. 250, is that what I want? Oh yeah, there you go. So you can kind of start to see it. 350? 150. Oh, here's our radius. This is what we want. Let's do 200. Okay, so you can kind of see the circle gets smaller. And we control the hardness using this edge. So if we go 1, and then we change our radius down to 50, we get like just a very harsh cutout. But let's just keep it like that because I think that'll be easier for us to troubleshoot. So this is the cutout. The cutout is determined by a position in space. And that is determined by this current cutout location. So what we need to do a line trace from the camera to our character. And if that hits a wall, then that's how we're going to set where this cutout location is. Now, in practice, if I let me create something that will help me demonstrate this. This is a weapon controller. Its current location, we can use its current location to help us figure this out. So if we put a location at here, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to undo that move. I'm going to come back to this guy, and our default value is here. Okay, so what is that value? That's going to be 2170 minus 427. I'm going to see if we can just force this to be 2170 minus 427 and 314 in Z. So I think even without a line trace, this should put a cutout on that wall. In that position. But it doesn't look like it's doing that. That's the opacity mask. Cutout location. That's the absolute world position. Maybe we don't have, maybe that's not the world position. Let's try 0, 0, 0. And let's just go radius of 1,000. This huge. Oh, look at that. Okay, so it's totally working. So you can see at 0, 0, so our origin is right in the middle. This cutout is working at 0, 0, 0. So now all it's a matter of is, and if we were to come back in here and we were going to type, let's just go 500 units in X, you'll notice that it moved back towards the back of the map. All right, so all we need to do is find a way to update this. So let's do that. And I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that yet, but I'm thinking we need our mannequin, shooter man. And what we're going to do is temporarily, let's take a look at the tick for this dude. Here's our tick. We have jump detection here. This is doing sphere tracing for objects. And this is checking in front of us. Where's our camera? Camera component, here we go. Okay, let's hijack this right now. What we're going to do is let's get our camera component and let's do, sure, we'll temporarily do the capsule and let's get can I get the location? I'm gonna get the world location of the camera component, and then I'm going to get the world location of the capsule for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a line trace. Sure, by channel, that's fine. And we're going to start at the camera and we're going to end at the capsule. And we're going to, let's not ignore anything. Let's go visibility. And draw debug for 1 frame. We have our trace color, we have our draw time. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so I believe, what was the eject button, F8? Yes. So you can see the camera is back here if we look at this line trace, and it runs through to our character's capsule. All right, now where it hits this wall is the red dot. So that is a world space position. So all we need to do, I'm blanking on how I used to do this, but we're going to do this messy for now just to get it working. So we do our line trace by channel. If that hit is successful, actually we need to do probably a multi-line trace, not a single, multi-line trace by channel. Oh, no, we don't. No, we don't. I'll explain why in a second. Okay, so if we get a hit, what we're going to do is move this down here. And I believe we're probably going to want to move this to be like looking at the character's head, for example, because if we're aiming down the aiming system, let's break this hit. And here's our location. This is it. Okay, so now let's do this thing is a box. So let's get all the static mesh active. It's interesting that has the floor material on it and not the environment material. There we go. That makes way more sense. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. So, but this is a box and it's got an environment material on it. So what we're going to try to do is let's get static. And I think probably what we would do is we would tag things in the end, but get static mesh, get all actors of class, static mesh, and then for each one, oh no, I don't have to do that. It's way easier. So hit actor right here. Let's cast to static mesh, and if that's successful, then we can get the materials. Get materials, and then for each one, what we're going to do is we are going to set parameter, set vector parameter, set parameter, boolean, float, integer. Oh wait, that's audio. That's not what we want. This is a material interface object. Oh, is this not a material instance dynamic by default? Is that what's happening here? Hold on. This is cutout location, primitive data, channel names. I wonder if we have to make this a material instance dynamic. Linear damping. Fake materials. I feel like there was a trick I did with this before. This cutout location is a parameter, and it's a material expression vector parameter. So let's do something here. Where does that live? Set material parameter vector. Set target. Nope, that's not what I want. What are we looking for here? Material copy, get, set, scalar, set vector, parameter value. That's a material instance dynamic. I may have to make this a material. That's for a skeletal mesh. All right. That's in a collection. NPC checker. Nope, that's not what I want. Set parameter value. This is the one, but they're not. So let's take this and let's cast it to material instance dynamic. Let's just see if this is what we need to do. We're just gonna, it's kind of a bummer if we have to convert all of them. I don't remember having to do this before. So let's just see if we can plug this in. We can't. Okay, so if we come in here, no. We're not gonna come in here. We're gonna come into this for loop. This for loop is gonna come in here, and when we're done, we're gonna go back to this. And then in here, if this succeeds, we're going to set the parameter value of this dude, the cutout location, and this is the parameter name, and the value we are going to get is the location here. Okay, so if the cast succeeds, we are setting it to the parameter value. If it does not succeed, then that means we need to make one. So let's create dynamic material instance. So if it fails, and then what we're going to do is, crazily enough, from the static mesh, oh, this is getting kind of messy. Let's set material instance. Nope. Set material. Set material. Set material. Okay, so this is going to set. Wait, where'd that go? All right. This is going to set the material. And the element index is going to be the array index. And the material that we are going to use is going to be this created material instance dynamic. Holy smokes, dude. And then with that, then we're going to come into here and we are going to do the same thing. We're going to set the return from our material instance dynamic. We're going to set our cutout. And we're going to set our value again as well. So we'll go ahead and do all of that. All right. Whew. And then when we're completed with the for loop, man, if this works, it's going to be a miracle. But let's see here. This all looks good. This all looks good. I'm not going to worry about time for right now. I'll explain what the time element is. Even though technically we're done, we're out of time, but let's just, in the last minute effort, see if this even works. Wait, is that working? Wait, it's working. See how we can see our character? That's pretty cool. Okay, I can't believe that worked. There's no way that should have worked. Okay, so let's cut our radius down to about like 250 and see if we see. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Dude, I can't believe it worked. So this is cool. So what this means is you can see our cutout is following wherever we are. And if the trick is when we walk away from the wall, let me switch to my mouse. You'll notice that the cutout stays. All right, this is the last bit because it stays here because what happens is, let's just turn off this line trace. This is driving me nuts. Let's do this, none. We have no debug now. All right, so what's gonna happen is the cutout is working by default. And then what happens is we walk away from this wall, there's nothing that turns it off. And what we need to do, but if I come over here, you'll notice that it cuts out there. So each of these, depending on where you are, for each wall, it basically defines where the material cutout is for each wall. And what we need to do is we need to make it so that there's a couple things we need to do. We probably want to make it so that it's a little further back because there's a case. But basically, as we walk away from the wall, we want that to fade. But overall, I'm surprised that works. Only from the standpoint of that was a little bit of a spaghetti mess in our blueprint. But you can see as we come through here, like when we back into this first, so we're not actually hitting the wall yet because right now the camera is inside the wall. It's between the wall. So we probably want the trace point to be some distance back behind. I would say that distance back behind, we would want it to be probably a vector length that is equal to the max wall thickness we have in our levels. And that would solve that problem. Because the minute I get behind that wall, now it cuts out properly. And then if we just for kicks, let's turn our dither back on. Where's our softness? That was over here. Let's go 0.5. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. So now you can kind of still see through. Now there's lots of cool stuff that you can do where what you do is I've done it where these grid lines, they stay. So you can kind of see the layout or the what do you call it? You can kind of still see the geometry outline. So like if you're fighting around a tree or something, you can see that that's a tree, so you don't try to dodge into it or whatever. But that's fun. So obviously the softness needs to be tweaked. This actually, the overall dithering mechanism works for masked objects simply because you don't, generally speaking, at least in the past, I have not checked since Nanite has popped up, but you didn't want all of these walls to be transparent material in your scene. So I think that is a pretty good spot to wrap up for tonight, especially because it has been one of those days. So let's wrap up for tonight. This was fun. We actually made some progress in a bunch of things. I kind of showed you guys where we were all updated from. I went over how to do some rough animations to make an awful evade animation by basically changing the way the dash animation works. That was actually kind of fun. We did that 2 different ways. And then we started talking about some of the kind of like the environment material transparency things. This first step is by no means this is how you should do it. This is just an introduction to the idea of a sphere cutout in your material, combined with the using a trace from the camera to the character, hitting the walls, and that's where you place your sphere. That's kind of like that idea. There's probably some performance stuff as far as constantly well, one on tick for the character, updating that cutout, but also the idea that you have to basically create a material instance dynamic for any of those walls that you happen to go through. For some reason, I vaguely remember being able to do that from runtime and not having to do it from the start as opposed to from runtime. So anyways, overall, it seems like we got to a pretty good place. So for next time, I'm probably going to mess around a little bit with changing our strafe or our evade to be just a single pose to see if that feels better. Overall, I'm not happy with it. And then as always, Antes, thanks for hopping in. It was good seeing you. I hope the stress is, maybe there'll be a grant or something and the stress will just drop away. That would be awesome for you all. Anybody who's hanging out in the wing, Weston, thanks for hopping in. Anybody who's hanging out in the wings, as always, if you have questions, throw the questions down in the comments. And even if you can't be in the next live stream, which is Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, even if you can't, make the next live stream, I'm happy to try to answer that question, or feel free to hop in and ask during the live stream as well. As always, thanks for hopping in. Help spread the word, support the channel any way you know how. My name's Kevin. I hope you all have an awesome start to your week, and I will catch you in the next stream. Take it easy.